Hello everyone, in this tutorial we're going to be looking at something quite interesting in Microsoft Excel. You're probably wondering what could it be? It's something that we all cannot avoid. It's lookup functions, and lookup functions come in a lot of ways within Microsoft Excel. There are a ton of them. We have Vlookup, HLookup, HexLookup, index, match, offset, get pivots, search, a lot of them, right? But for the purpose of this video, we're going to be looking at Vlookup. And you wonder, what is Vlookup? Some of you have probably heard of them, and some of them are, Vlookup is so old, there are better functions. Yes, I agree. We also need to be able to look through the back and see where lookup functions emanated from, where we're coming from, so you can appreciate the newer functions and know the exact places where you can apply them if you're faced with real life challenges. All right, so let's talk about VLOOKUP. Now, V basically means vertical. The V in the VLOOKUP means vertical, right? You would have heard of HLOOKUP. H basically means horizontal, but today we'll talk about VLOOKUP. And what does VLOOKUP do for you? Think of it as that helper that can help you find what you're looking for. So think of it, let's bring it home like we're talking to a 5-year-old, and that particular 5-year-old needs to find the price of a toy. VLOOKUP can help you look at the entire data set where your information lies that has the name of your toy and the price of a toy. So think of VLOOKUP as that helper that you can tell the name of the toy and it will return the corresponding price of the toy, right? And that's how helpful it can be. So look at it from this angle. You see the toy name and the price, and you could be looking for the price of a ball, or the price of blocks, or the price of Lego, anything, and VLOOKUP would definitely do that for you. Now, in VLOOKUP, there are 4 arguments. What are arguments? Argument, basically, think of them as parameters, or think of them as the plug and play that you really need to do, the fields you need to fulfill, because before a function can work properly. Now, we have number one parameter inside VLOOKUP says lookup value. Lookup value basically means, what are you looking for? So this time around, I'm looking for a toy named ball, right? So that's your lookup value. And what's the table array? That is, where should I find ball for you? Basically have to tell Excel, look for ball here inside this table array. And what is my column index number? Which basically means you need to have an idea of where the corresponding column, or you need to have an idea of the number of the column that VLOOKUP needs to count, right, from left to right, to find the price of your toy. So which means, if this is my table array and this is where my lookup value is, that is ball, this is my first column, right? Now I'm looking for the price. The column index number here will be column 2. If this price was in the 4th column, let's say there is location or something in between, and price happens to be in the 4th column, my column index number will be column 4, or it will be number 4, right? Then range lookup. Range lookup basically is an optional argument. However, you can choose to fulfill it. There are only 2 things inside it. It's either you're looking for an exact match or an approximate match. 100% of the time, or 99% of the time, you'll be looking for an exact match. An exact match inside Microsoft Excel basically means 0, right? Or you choose false, right? It's just binary. Is that true or false? 0, 1, right? So you choose false, and you'll be able to totally complete your VLOOKUP. Another way to think of it is, you're going out and you want to tell your child to bring the key to your car for you. Now, in your garage, there are 2 kinds of cars, the Lambo and your Mercedes, and your child will basically look at you. So which car are you going out with? Which key should I bring for you? You basically say, bring the key to the Mercedes, right? That is your lookup value. So your child still stares blank at you and say, where should I find the key to your Mercedes? You basically say, oh, it's in the closet, right? That is your table array where the person should look. And the person is basically saying, oh, okay, in the closet, you have a very big closet. So where exactly are you basically saying, oh, the top of the closet, or the first rack, right? That is basically you specifying the column index number. And the range of lookup is whether you want an approximate match or an exact match. Well, that could be something that looks like a key to your Mercedes, or the exact key of your Mercedes. All right, so I hope this explanation helps. Now, let's sound a tiny note of warning. VLOOKUP has its limitations. VLOOKUP is quite limited. And we could quickly look at the limitations of VLOOKUP. Now, one of the limitations of VLOOKUP is that it can only look from left to right of your data set. That is, it can only look from left to right like this. He goes like this. Can only look forward, right? Which basically implies that whatsoever or wherever your lookup value is within your data set, it has to be at the leftmost part of your data set. So again, we're looking for ball. It has to, whatever I'm specifying as my table array, my lookup value should be at the leftmost part of my data set so that VLOOKUP can look to the right of it, right? Also, you're constrained to know the corresponding column index number. So imagine you have data set that have 200 columns, or let's say 10 columns, right? Which means you have to know the corresponding column index number of whatever it is you're looking for. So think of it as you have a data set with 10 columns and you want to find the location of something, right? And which means, and if that thing is in column 8, you need to have first of all counted column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till you get to column 8, and before you can be able to fulfill all the parameters or all the arguments in VLOOKUP. So let's quickly write it here. So how would VLOOKUP look for this particular data set? So if I'm looking for ball, the price of ball, it will look like something like VLOOKUP. You call the function called VLOOKUP, right? VLOOKUP, and once you call VLOOKUP, it opens up. What's your lookup value? Ball. So you can reference this. Let's say this is A2, right? So A2. And the next argument basically asks you in the table array. So you could say from A2 to, let's say this is C5. So to have like A2 to C5. The next thing, column index number is 2. So we're going to comma and put 2. And what do we want? We want an exact match, and that is a 0. And we'll close our bracket and we'll find VLOOKUP returning $20 to us, right? I hope that has been very helpful. Now let's go to the data set in Microsoft Excel.
So let's look at our data set for VLOOKUP. This is the data card here basically talks about automobiles, and these are the specific automobiles that we want to find their weight and their horsepower. Now, I'll quickly use VLOOKUP to pull out their weight and their horsepower. Note that this is a large data set. I have over 300, well, maybe not so large, but it's quite large. I may not entirely know where this exact car names are. So I'll use VLOOKUP to pull up their weight and their horsepower. So I'll call the function VLOOKUP. The lookup value that I want to look for is Pontiac Catalina. So I'm going to reference Pontiac Catalina, and I'll put a comma. The table array right now is this entire automobile table. Now, because I work in structured referencing, and you could check out our tutorial on structured referencing, working with tables, I've already put this data set in a table and I named them automobiles. So I'm just going to call automobiles, and I'm going to pick that, and Excel has understood that, oh, I'm referring to the entire table. So look for Pontiac in the automobile table, and the next argument is column index number. So now I want to look for the weight of Pontiac Catalina. The weight of Pontiac Catalina falls on column F in my entire range, right? So, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That makes column 6. So I'm just going to write 6, and I want an exact match. And I'll close the bracket, and there I have it. I have the weight of the Pontiac Catalina. This is very important. Another important thing we need to notice when you're working in tables, life becomes easier. If you were to work in a range that you reference, you necessarily now need to also talk about absolute referencing, where you necessarily need to lock yourself, where you see all those dollar signs that at times get scary. It gets scary for me at times, I would not lie. However, working in tables make life easier for you. If you wanted to drag this down, you can drag it down yourself, at least. All right, so that is for Pontiac. If you wanted to find the horsepower for Pontiac Catalina, we'll do the same thing, just that the column index number is changing. So column index number for the horsepower would be, it's on column E, and that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll put 5. A lazy way to do it is probably just copy the formula that you have here. I'll do Ctrl C, then I'll press the escape button, and I'll come here, I'll press Ctrl V, and I'll go inside my formula bar and just change this to 5, because what I need is what's on column 5, and I'll have it, right? So that makes life easier for you. And because you're working in tables, if you want to drag this down, you could drag it down, and it will return the corresponding values to you. Now, so let's quickly do that. So I've dragged them all down, and we can just do Control F and find and be sure if everything is correct. So Ford Torino, so I'm going to copy here, and I'm going to look for Ford Torino, right? So Control V, just so we're sure if we're doing the right thing. Now Ford Torino is on, this is Ford Torino, and it has found Ford Torino for us. And look at it here, it says 3449 for the weight, and the horsepower is 140, so we're on the right track. All right, so again, another thing with Vlookup, because it's vertical lookup, work with most of these lookup functions, is if there were to be 5 Ford Torinos, duplicates of Ford Torino in this table, Vlookup is going to pick the first one it sees from top to bottom, because it starts looking from top, and the first Ford Torino it sees is what it picks and return the value to you. All right, so in trying to find out, or in trying to validate the limitations of Vlookup, I put another data set, the same data set, but I just rearranged some things so that we can assure, so that we can see how Vlookup can be limited. It can only look further to the right of the lookup value. That is, the lookup value must be on the leftmost part, and Vlookup would then keep looking to its right. However, if your lookup value is not on the leftmost part, it's probably in between your data set. You can imagine if this name that we're looking for, that is the lookup value, if this name column was in column E and every other thing is scattered, and we wanted, if this name was in column E and we wanted to know the horsepower, which means what we want to find for that is behind the lookup value, Vlookup is not going to find it. So I did something here. The name is to the farther right, and let's attempt to look for the weight of Pontiac Catalina using Vlookup, right? So lookup value, my table, what I named this table, I named it automobile, but automobile 3. So I'm just going to pick automobile 3, column index number, we're looking for the weight, and the weight right now is on column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's column 5, and that is another, disadvantage or limitation of Vlookup I was talking about. You necessarily need to know the column index number, and you can imagine if you had large columns, it's going to be tough. You need to have to count. All right, so of course, improvements have gone over the years. There are other things there are other functions that can be used to get all of these things, and we'll get to them shortly. So yeah, that's column index number 5, and I'll want to make that match. Now hit enter. Vlookup is not going to find it, and that's because my lookup value is not on the leftmost part, right? All right, and it's going to happen for all of the data sets. Okay, so I just wanted to reinforce that, and so you're sure of when to use Vlookup. If your lookup value is not on your leftmost part, probably not the best thing, not the best approach. There are other functions. You can use your index and match them together, or you can use an XLOOKUP. We're going to treat them in later tutorials. All right, so basically that is Vlookup in real life scenario.